Okay. So, thank you all for coming. And thank you all for agreeing to participate. That was great. So, we're going to get started with some introductions so that everybody knows who everybody is, because I don't know most of y'all, and I know you don't know us. So, we'll go last. You can do that. Let's start over here, please. Sorry. I was already gesturing. You're it.
Ron Lewin, the Director of Region.
I'm Kay Anderson. I wear multiple hats, but I'm with the Oral County Emergency Management.
I'm messed up with the game parts of the flat.
Hey, I'm Brown, City Clerk, City Mayor. Father Daniel Payne, Section 34, Ken Newman, Region 22 Emergency Management.
Guzman Kennedy.
John Olson, a broker in the
Please Baker from Drought Water, involved today.
Bruce Burdick from the Welland Furniture.
Dave Bostic from Scotts Bluff. I'm on the NRD board and I work at the Research Extensions.
Dennis Miller, farmer by the well.
Ian Todd, Stormwater Program Specialist for City of Scotts Bluff.
Kathy, Public Works Director for City Building.
Dan Morford, Scotts Bluff, Pennsylvania.
Kevin Adams, Manager of Farm Irrigation District.
Bruce Rolls at the process of closing Western Title Board on the board of the Platte Irrigation.
I'm Melissa Cervantes. I'm the Environmental Health Coordinator with Canadian Public Health District in Henrysport.
I'm Trevor Snyder, I'm the farmer consultant.
I'm Joe Riddell, with the Parks Fisheries Division.
Al Hanson, the Parks District.
Okay, could the people on the phone please introduce themselves? In any particular order.
This is Nicole Wall with the National Drought Mitigation Center.
This is Nan Gould, Shadron. I can hear anybody but the facilitator.
Okay, I'll try to get people to speak up a lot louder. Thank you.
This is Ryan Larson, with Regional Behavioral Health.
Jerry Jennings, Platte River Program.
Jennifer Sylvester, Department of Natural Resources.
Courtney Schuler, Trinidad Island Corporation.
Sandy Hendren, Roosevelt Public Power District.
Okay, so as Nan just said, the microphone on this phone isn't great. The microphone on this computer isn't great. So when you're talking, please speak up as loud as you can, so we can make sure that the people on the phone can hear and that we're getting things recorded appropriately. I hope that's okay. Okay, so I am Tracy Zayak. I am the policy advisor for the North Platte MRD. And I'm the scary one of the two of us, just so you know.
I'm Elizabeth Miller. I'm a policy analyst here.
Okay, and what we are doing this year is drought planning, which I know we've told you already. And one of the reasons that we want to do this is because we don't have a drought plan. We have droughts fairly frequently. This district, this NRD, does not have a specific plan for how to deal with that, either before it happens, when it happens, or afterward. And so our goal is to change that. And the way that we want to do that is to bring in people from all across the district so that it's not just, hi, you want to introduce yourself? You're welcome. Great, thank you. For a couple of chairs. I don't think anyone bites. Oh, yeah. So what we wanted to do in building this drought plan is to get input from all different sectors and all different communities in the district, so that we're not just talking to one set of people or two sets of people and ending up with this really narrow plan that doesn't have a lot of applicability across the district. Now, obviously, there are a lot of you in here who probably don't talk to us all that often, and that's actually partly why we have to do this. Because we want to change that. We want to increase communication between the district and everybody in our district, not just the people that we end up talking to all the time. So that's was sort of our philosophy in asking you to do this. And again, I'm really grateful that you're here. You guys are all in what we call stakeholder roles. So you guys are going to be the active participants in the planning process, as will a couple of the people on the phone. There are also a number of agencies that we've asked to be sort of in an advisory role, and they're not going to be direct stakeholders. Representatives from the Platte River Recovery Program and DNR, for example, are in that advisory role. And their job is going to be to help us understand what their roles are, what their capabilities are, what their limitations are during the drought, so that as we're moving forward and talking about what our capabilities and limitations are, we also know what those outside agencies and resources are, and that'll help to inform the plan that we eventually come up with. Y'all with me so far? Okay, there'll be time for questions later, but I'll stop for this one. So, am I following my own agenda? I am. Okay, good. Sometimes I get off topic. So, one of the things that we're going to be doing in the small group meetings that we're going to be having starting next week is to talk about what other people think the goals and objectives of a drought plan should be. Now, we're coming into this obviously with our own ideas of what we would like to see come out of this or what we think should be part of that process. That doesn't mean that our specific goals and objectives have to make it into the final plan. This is just what we want to see happen. So I put some of those up over there. I know you can't read that. I'm not going to read them all to you. I'm just going to talk about them a little bit. So I've already talked about how we want to get better at anticipating drought and mitigating it before it happens, about responding to it when it's happening, and about I didn't write recovery, but what we do afterwards to rebuild, to get back on track once drought is officially over. So those are all things that we would like to see be part of the plan. One of the other things that we are really looking at is developing a drought monitoring toolbox. And what that means is there are a whole bunch of things out on the internet that tell you about climate, that tell you about drought impacts, that tell you about vegetation impacts, and they're fairly consolidated, but we in this district have not historically referenced those fairly regularly, and we don't do a very good job of letting everybody else know that those things are out there and what they're for. So one of the things that I would like to see come out of this is us being able to communicate that information to people like you guys much better, much faster. And so one of the things that we're going to want to do in this process is find out from you, what is it you need to know? What do you want to know? How soon do you need to know it? So that as we look at building that toolbox, we're responding to your needs as fast as we can. So you'll see this a little bit later when we're talking about schedules. But one of the things we want to do as part of this process is have a workshop that shows what those drought tools are, and then get feedback from you on what makes sense to you. You know, what should we be putting on our website? What should we be communicating to the public? What should we be monitoring more closely? That kind of thing. So that's actually not a meeting that was on the schedule that we talked about everybody. That'll be an optional one. It would be really great if you want to. But schedules are what they are. So that's sort of what we're coming into this process with. And again, we will talk to all of you in our small group meetings about what you're coming to this process. And my hope is that we can sort of meld all of those things together so that we end up with a set of goals and objectives that meet our needs and that meet the community. That's all I can say. Cool. All right. What else? All right. You want to talk a little bit about case studies? Need probably. Oops.
want to do schedules first?
No, I want to go all the way to slide 1, which is where we're.
Okay. I'm just gonna stay seated so that you can see better and hopefully maybe the people on the phone can hear me better as well.
Actually, I think if you stand over there, you'll probably. Yeah.
I won't be in the way then.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so all of the input that Tracy was just talking about, what your challenges might be per sector, what you need from us, that will all go into a final document that will be a plan that we'll be adopting as an NRD, and that we also hope you and your own organizations, your own work, however you choose to use it, that you also do so, make use of it, adopt it into our organization. Do you want to add anything on that? But I also wanted to talk about the difference between that document that we all developed together and a sort of case study that the NRD would like to do that talks about the information of that document. The drought plan, again, we hope that you'll all be willing to put your name on it as authors. That's something that you need to clear with different parts of your organization. We'll leave that up to you to decide on how that's done, but we do hope that your name will be on it along with ours. Again, we hope that you'll use it in your own organization. And that document is meant to be a local planning tool and also action tool, so that we're all aware of if drought hits, what are we going to do, who's going to do what, in what time frame, how it's going to be done. The other document that's talked about on the right-hand side here is an article, a recount of the process that the NRD will be writing on what happened, how we did things, what went well, what did not go so well, sort of our challenges. It will be available for your review before we attempt to publish it, before we attempt to present it in larger forums, to make sure that you're comfortable with what we've said about the process, if what we said is actually how things went for you, how you interpreted it, and give us your feedback on that. This document is intended to be a broader educational tool at state and national levels, specifically in regards to the National Drought Mitigation Center and also the National Integrated Drought Information System. If you want to add a description about those organizations now.
Sure. The National Drought Mitigation Center is housed at UNO. Their purpose is to help in drought planning, drought information, that kind of thing. And they are linked to or have a partnership with NIDIS, which is run through NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. You can't have government without acronyms, you all. And so what NIDIS does is they're sort of their goal is to be sort of a giant clearinghouse of drought information, whether that's technical data or tools or examples of planning processes that have been undertaken around the country. And they put that all together so that people who are looking to start a planning process or get some information on drought or drought monitoring, that's all there under their umbrella. So what they will be interested in and what we would like to do is share our learning from this process with them and with NDMC, so that if there's stuff that goes really well in this process, we kind of like to brag about that because it means you guys did a good job. If there's stuff that did not go well, it means we didn't do a good job. That's not going. But it's also important, I think, to talk about lessons learned in any kind of process, so that we know when we're doing well and when we're not doing well and what we need to improve. And so it's our hope to share that kind of information too, that's related sort of to the planning process itself as well as the plan.
No, really.
So, however, before we start to collect that kind of information or talk about that kind of information, we want to make sure that that process is something that you all are going to be comfortable with. So here within the next week or so, I'm going to be sending out a survey that has to do with the topics here. Pretty much just, are you okay with that? Do you have any concerns up front about that? Also, the specific names that you would like us to use or not use regarding yourself, your organization, the information you shared. Just giving you a chance to really specify what we can and can't talk about in regards to you all. Also, the process for how we gather that information. So before we go into every group discussion, do I need to get written consent from you to use this information? Is it enough to do it once? So there'll be a chance to get feedback on that as well, your thoughts on how you would like that process to go, ideas and suggestions for that too. And that's all I have on the case study for now. I don't know if there's questions.
No, we're not. I have to go back to the other thing. Rules of engagement. No, let's do this. This is probably the most awkward thing about Zoom.
It's just something I would like to cover up front to take care of it if it were to be in the event that you say something that you don't want other people to know. I mean, maybe you think that Game & Parks does an awful job at doing this, and you actually don't want that written in an article and published with your name on it. So, you know, it's to take care of those things. I mean, again, we're really grateful that you all have come here. We'd hate to offend you by publishing things that you don't want said in public. So we want to make sure that that's covered and you all feel comfortable sharing your ideas in this space.
Any other questions? Okay, so.
Don't publish that.
All right. I'm going to read all that. Okay, so some of that's going to look familiar from the one of you, two of you who are in the draft room. Okay, so we've made some rules of engagement for this process to keep it flowing smoothly, we hope, because you guys have been talking to each other a lot for the next 4 months. We kind of like to continue talking to each other after that too. So we're going to do our best. So Elizabeth and I are going to be facilitating the meetings themselves. You'll see both of us or one of us, kind of depends on the day and how rowdy you people get. So we wanted to put out some rules of engagement for this entire process about how we want everyone to behave this meeting. Number one is always treat others respectfully. And remember that respectfully is in the eye of the recipient and not the originator. So please bear that in mind. Hi. Would you like to introduce yourself real quick?
Okay, hi, I'm Lynn Parker. I'm from Banner County, and this is the talking Drought.
We are talking Drought. I think older to
That wind's gonna dry us up. Does that count?
Hey, it might actually. How this year goes. Okay. So always keep that in mind. If someone, and you know, this is sort of our job as leaders of the group to make sure that this continues to happen. But if there ends up being sort of a one-on-one exchange, we might encourage you to exchange elsewhere to try to iron that stuff out as much as possible. But I hope that never happens. Do not speak out of turn. So what we're going to try to do is make sure in these groups that everybody gets a chance to talk and that everyone's ideas get out on the table. So if it's not your turn, please no more. Remember to attack the problem or the question, not each other. We are here essentially as a giant problem solving exercise. So that's the thing we want to be poking at. We don't want discussions to be personal or antagonistic. And remember to speak only your own views. And this is sort of related also to number 5. Do not attribute statements or views to others. So what that means is when you're talking about your experiences or drought impacts on your particular sector, it's important to stick to that. You're talking about you, you're talking about your sector or your segment of the community, and it's not fair to say, well, those people think that's not going to move the discussion forward. What we want you to talk about is what you think, what your community experiences. Does that make sense? Okay. And last, this is a fairly compressed process. We're trying to get the entire stakeholder thing done by the end of June, which is pretty ambitious. And although we're going to have sort of lengthy meetings, lengthy meetings, 3 hours, that's still not a whole lot of time to cover a whole lot of ground. So when we're in the actual discussions, please stick to subject matter. You talk about whatever when you're on breaks, I don't care. But when we are in those meetings, we want to make sure that we're actually sticking to subject matter, because that's respectful of of everyone who's putting in the time and the effort. Any questions? If y'all get real rowdy, I'll come up with more rules, but I think we'll stick to 6 right now. So that's a good number. Okay. I'm gonna read my tiny meeting schedule. Okay, so you may have noticed that you got an email from this weird npnrd.gmail.com. That was me. We're going to do this as paperless as humanly possible. I don't like to go through. And also you guys are kind of stuck out. So what we're going to try to do is run the document management through Google Docs. I encourage anybody who hasn't played with that, please go and play. Go ask your kids or grandkids how that stuff works. Move around with it. But what I'm going to do, and what we're going to try to do through this entire process, is put the meeting agendas, the meeting notes from each of our discussions on Google Docs. Some of those documents you will only be able to look at. You won't be able to. You're not going to be able to edit any of them. Some of them you will be able to comment on. So, for example, from our little small group meetings that we're having next week, we're going to write up the meeting notes for each of those meetings. So your job after your meeting and when those get posted is to go and read that and make sure we didn't perjure, we didn't make stuff up, we didn't write down something you said wrong. We want to make sure that the record we're keeping of this process is accurate. So you'll have the ability to go in and comment on documents to make sure that we're doing it right. And then if there are mistakes that are made or things that we need to add or things we need to flesh out, we'll get that taken care of. Elizabeth and I are going to be in charge of sort of typing everything out and making sure that it gets posted. And then we'll send out email notifications when that's posted, along with sort of rough time frames for when we need to have your comments finished. The same thing is going to happen when we start to write the actual drought plan. You'll be able to provide comments, you'll be able to tell us what we're missing, that kind of thing. We'll do probably in some of those meetings, we might even do some real-time editing, just to kind of move the process forward rather than having to go back and forth. So we're hoping that we keep those documents as alive as possible. Does all that make sense? Okay. So you will continue to get obnoxious emails from the drought planning thing, but I'll try not to do it too much. Let's see, what's next? I did want to show you this. These are not really organized right now. When you go into Google Docs, there's going to be folders. The meeting notes are going to be in one folder. Meeting agendas are going to be in another folder. I'll create more folders as needed. I like folders. And I will do my best to tell you where I have stashed things. And I'll also do my best to troubleshoot, but I'm not a Google expert, so I make no promises.
So you're basically going to send us an email telling us where to go. Is that what?
That's right. That's right. And the email, because I'll send it directly from Gmail, should have a link to go directly to the document that you need to be looking at. So it should take you straight there. But if you ever needed to go back and look at it again and you couldn't find the email with the link, that's why I wanted to show you that folder structure, because that's where they're going to be hiding. But again, if you ever can't find something, shoot me an email, give me a call. One of us will figure it out. Yes.
Question.
You said you'll send out that email and basically invite comment to make sure you've got the minutes correct. Are you looking to have a discussion at that point? If somebody has a suggested change to the minutes, would you prefer they just do a reply or reply all so everybody sees it?
You know, I think reply all might make sense, because if it's a question of something like one person remembers we talked about it this way, but somebody else thought we meant something else, that's going to be a productive discussion, because we need to make sure that we're all sort of remembering things in the same way. So if I write something down, but one person thought we meant this, but another person thought we meant something completely different, I do want to see that whole discussion so that we can all arrive at a consensus of, okay, this is what we meant. I may have to go through and clean them up every so often. Strings get really long. I'll try and keep track of that. Okay. So
Everyone here have an email address?
we're going to ask about that. Okay. The other thing, so we're going to have our documents on Google Docs, but we also have created this is our speaking new website, which I've been to like twice, so I don't even know what it looks like. We also have a drought section on our website. So there's going to be a main drought page. This is where we are. You can access it by clicking on the little programs button that's right there, and drought's right there. There's also going to be a drought planning sub-page. It's not live yet. That's where we're going to be posting meeting information and reminders, and we're also going to be doing sort of flash polls for you guys and for the public in general. We do want to get a certain amount of public input through this process. So we'll be trying to collect information from other people periodically. And that's all going to be showing up on this portion of our website. So check both of those things, check your emails, but also check the website to see what we've got going on there. And we'll try to do our best to notify you if we're putting new stuff out there, just so you're aware. But sometimes I forget some. I admit that. Okay. I close that, look at my tiny agenda. I think that is all I have to say about that. Okay. Everybody's favorite part. Scheduling. Do you want to talk about that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll put the thing up. Structure.
Probably just go ahead and go to the April one. So when I initially contacted you, I tried to get your availability, if you prefer mornings, evenings, weekends, or what you don't prefer. And so I've recorded all of that. But there's also been requests for more long-term planning so that you all can manage your long-term schedule. So we kind of switched to this. We picked some chunks of time that we are intending to hold the next, well, all of the activities, events from here on out. So for April, the next thing that we will be doing after the small group meetings that are already scheduled for next week. So the first April meeting, we're looking at April 5th for the, it'll just be a full group meeting where people have a chance to talk about what their organizations can and can't do or will and won't do in regards to drought. We're looking at that for the 5th. That second chunk of green down there at the bottom, April 17th through the 28th, is the time span that we're looking at for the next small group meetings. That you'll only be attending one meeting throughout that time period, but those are the dates that we're looking at for the cross-sector learning. For May, the creating solutions small group discussions, we're looking at the time period from May 8th through the 19th. There's also the tools workshop that Tracy talked about. We're looking at the 10th for that. In June, when we're writing the final plan, we're looking at the first session on June 1st and the second session on June 20th. And hopefully at that point, we'll have a final product and be able to wrap things up. I know on your timeline, we did have a July meeting, and maybe if that's absolutely necessary, we can consider that, but for now, we definitely hope that we can get it done in June. So the sheets that are coming around it's the same setup as what you've seen here, only the time frames that we're looking at are shaded a light gray. So if you would look at that, any dates or again, times that you know you're absolutely not available within those chunks that we've blocked off, if you would just go ahead and write on there, and then before you leave, give it back to me so that here within the next couple of days, I can give you a full schedule so that you can continue to plan and just not worry. You already know what meetings that we have set, and you can just know and forget about it. So be sure to put your name on there, and again, write the dates that you are not available during that time period. For those of you on the phone, I will be emailing you the same sheet. You can fill it out as just a Word document and then email it back to me as soon as possible.
And if anybody would like a copy of this via email, we can absolutely email it to you too.
Yes.
One of the early email managers for moving stuff around, so as we're thinking about availability and so on and travel, do you have an idea of when, where, any of that?
Yes. We could, well, not for all of them. I can tell you that probably the big group meetings are going to be here mostly, probably. It's possible that one of those may be in Bridgeport. The small group meetings, we are going to move around a little bit. There will be some of them that will be in Bridgeport. I think I've got at least one scheduled for Llewellyn. That'll kind of depend on which group you fall in at any given point. We're going to get that out pretty darn soon, I think. We need to reconfigure our stakeholder position. But yeah, we're going to put that information out as soon as possible too. So that if the travel time thing is an issue, we can get that ironed out as soon as possible as well. For the meetings next week, the location went out with the email, so at least for the ones next week, you should know where you need to show up. And we'll try to do the same thing a little further in advance for the other.
When did you send that email out?
Yesterday?
Okay.
You're new, so I haven't sent yours yet.
Okay. So we'll get you on all of
the same place.
Pardon?
The small meetings, we're not all meeting in the same place.
No, they are not, because you don't all live in the same place. So we're trying to even out the amount of driving that everybody has to. So yeah, some of them are going to be.
Are they gonna stay in the same place for each small group meeting, or are they gonna move around?
Those are moving around too. Yeah. The tools workshop will definitely be here, because we can set up the education room for that. But yeah, the other ones we're going to be sort of a road show. Any other questions about scheduling? Okay, somebody asked, before we wrap up, somebody asked about emails. We're pretty sure we have everybody's emails and they're all correct. I haven't had anything bounce back yet. But if you want to make sure that we have your email, or if you just want to write it down for us again, so we have some idea we do, that would be great. Yeah, paper record for that. That would be very helpful. Yes, Dave.
I'm looking in Google Docs now, and I'm realizing that my Google Docs account isn't tied to the same email I get messages from you on. It's tied to my Gmail. So I think an important part of this is to make sure that whichever email address you're getting email from the NRD on for this process is the one you've got on your Google Docs.
No, actually, you can access Google Docs with any email address. If you're going to edit something, it will make you create a password, but it's just for that email. You don't have to create a Gmail account to be able to do this. It will work with whatever it's supposed to work with, whatever email address you've already got. If that doesn't happen, please let me know. But theoretically, that's supposed to work. So if you want it to be tied to a different one, like if you want it to go to your Gmail one instead of your UNO one, let me know and we'll change that on the list.
Yeah, my shared file, I don't have a shared file yet for you guys. And that's probably because it's.
That may be true. If anybody else has that problem, if you're not getting stuff or you can't see the files, let me know. We'll see if we can figure it out. But yeah, Dave, let me know if you want to keep using that email or if you want to switch to the other one. Yes, Pat?
What's your planned time for meetings? Would they be morning or afternoon?
It's going to depend. So there are some people who are definitely never available at certain times of day. So let me use you as an example, Kevin. Kevin is not a morning person. So the meetings that Kevin is in are not going to be scheduled in the morning because he'll never be there and that's not there. So we're trying to accommodate that kind of thing as much as possible. So when you're giving us your availability, if there are definite chunks of the day, like the morning, that will never work, let us know that too, so that when we're scheduling a meeting that you're in, it won't be in the morning. Now, we all know that people get busy and stuff comes up in the end. So there are going to be some meetings that you're just not going to be able to make. That's why we want to make sure that we record the audio and that we take good notes for the meeting minutes, so that if you're not able to make it, you still know what happened. Any other questions?
I don't know if that was clear before also that, so for any of you who are feeling kind of uneasy about traveling all over to different places, if you absolutely are not interested in traveling, there's going to be the options like the conference line or the Zoom that you can still access, or the small group discussion. So it's not only going to be for the larger meetings, but also the small group meetings.
Right, that's a good point. There will always be that online conference option if you can't get here in person, if you had a meeting in person. If you need help with that, I have sort of limited knowledge of Zoom, but I'll do my best to help you figure out how that works. The widget is free to download, so you don't have to pay anything to use that. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all very much. Get some cookies on your way out the door. You'll keep your blood sugar up until they're also, well, anyway, get some cookies.
The caller has left the conference.
Okay, for everybody on the phone, we are wrapping it up. Thank you for joining and keep checking your email. Again, if you have any questions.
Thanks, Tracy and Elizabeth.
Thank you.